Hi, welcome to this edition of Garden Guns. I've got a horrible feeling this is going to be a bit of a long one. I apologise in advance for that, and I apologise for any waffling. So with that in mind, let's get on with it. And what are we here to discuss today? Today I'm here to talk about this bad boy. For those of you that don't know what this is the FX Dreamline, and in this particular version I've done this myself. I've turned it into the tactical compact version. Originally, this rifle started off life as the Dreamline Light Compact. I'm not sure if it was originally a cylinder model or whether it came with the bottle, but as I got this second hand, this originally was the light version with the compact 300mm barrel, and it did have the 0.3 litre bottle and bottle adapter on it. For those of you that aren't particularly familiar with the Dreamline line, it's what they call their modular air rifle. Basically, it's all to do with this block here, this thing here. That whole block, that receiver area, is the core to the rifle's modularity, and then you can slap bits onto it as you please. It's not massively cheap. I think, for instance, if you wanted to turn it into the classic, I think the wooden stocks are just under £400. To turn it into the tactical, I had to buy the folding, because I made it the folding version, so I had to buy the folding mechanism and then a buffer tube, a stock, and I had to pay for the riser on the top, and none of that was particularly cheap. But that modularity does mean that you can start off with one rifle, save some pennies, and for less than a third of a cost of another rifle you can buy the bits to turn this into something else. I mean, right up to the point where you can buy a bullpup conversion kit and have this as a bullpup rifle, which, to be honest, is something I'm thinking about doing. I was thinking about doing, but to be fair, in the compact version I love this just as it is. I'm not going to mess around with this rifle at all. Mess around any further. Anyway, so let me run through this particular rifle. This one, as I said, is mine. I did get it second hand. There is a bit of a story behind that, which I might do in the summing up at the end. I might tell you about the summing up at the end. But anyway, so as I say, I've put the M16 stock on and the buffer tube. It's got the folding mechanism on it. Pardon me, itchy nose. Always an itchy nose. As I say, this was originally the light version, so it already had the hammer spring adjuster, which is this thing here. If you have the Dreamline Classic, which is the wooden stocked version, that's the direct replacement, I believe, for the FX Dreamline. That has an internal hammer spring adjuster in it, so you have to take the stock off. I think it's a nut at the back in here that you have to wind in and out. But if you buy the light version, which I believe is the basic version, I think it's their basic version. They're sort of, the entry level rifle. They sort of go for brand new. They go for around about, I want to say, anywhere between $925 and £1,000, depending on where you go. I think Leicestershire Air Guns have got them for sort of $925, I think, or thereabouts. I've seen them online elsewhere for $940. So if you shop around, you'll be able to find a decent deal, I think. Anyway, for the basic version, or you can do what I did, which is buy this second hand. Anyway, as you come forward, you get into the transfer port. Weirdly, when I've been tuning this rifle, I've actually found it better to have the transfer port at medium. At high, it didn't seem to be. I just got a slightly bigger sort of spread between shots, whereas when I turned it to medium, when I was tuning the rifle, on this rifle anyway, it seemed to give me the most consistent sort of shot string, which I'll talk about later. Then you come forward into the bottle adapter and the housing for the amp regulator itself. An amp is adjustable, means adjustable match precision regulator. As I say, this one's got a 0.3 litre carbon bottle on it, which is nice and light. It's got a shrouded 300mm smooth twist X barrel, and the smooth twist barrel, what they do is they actually they crimp the rifling in on the outside. It's very strange, but it works works really well. The barrels are super accurate. I found that this one works really well with the JSBs, and hopefully I can show it works pretty well with the air arms as well, because I've run out of JSBs. So for the portion, the accuracy portion, we're going to have to use air arms Diablos, which frankly I think they come from the JSB factory in Czech anyway. So shrouded barrel. The barrel doesn't have any moderation in it. There's no baffling. Literally is just a shroud. Having said that, 11 foot-pounds, it was reasonably quiet. You know, air gun club friendly, I'd say. You're not going to annoy too many people at the firing point. Having said that, if you're using it in a garden and you're surrounded by neighbours, I definitely suggest probably moderating it. And if you're using it out in the field, you're definitely going to want to stick extra moderation on that. And to that end, on this one, I've put an ATEC wave silencer. I would normally have gone, back in the day, I would have used a Weirach. But the current sort of range of Weirach silencers, they've changed the rear of it, and it just looks, well, on this it looked terrible. So yeah, I went with the ATEC. I use the ATECs on my rimfires. They're pretty decent silencers, especially for the £40 price mark that they come in at. Anyway, right, let's flip it around. So when you come back from the bottle, you've got the bottle pressure there, which shows you the pressure. Here you've got the regulator pressure. You've got a side lever cocking mechanism. To be fair, it's probably my own real gripe with this rifle, is the fact that you know, after using the Vixen, I kind of want a 90 degree. I want that to be all the work I've got to do, so it's nice and fast. Unfortunately, when it gets to the 90 degree mark, well, just before the 90 degree mark, that's when it starts to engage with the hammer and the hammer spring. So all the work is done in that last sort of 90 degrees. So it's almost 180 degrees swing. I mean, it's nice and positive. It's just, you know, that's quite a long pull when you compare it to, say, something like the Airgun Technologies Vixen. That's the only criticism I've got about this rifle. Spoiler alert. So you can probably tell I quite like it. I mean, the fact, yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, let's get on with it. We've got AR-15 style safety catch. This one, actually, unlike the Impact, works in the correct way. And for right-handed shooters, it falls perfectly under the thumb. At least it does for me. So 3 o'clock is in the safe position. And then I've just cocked the rifle. It is clear. There's no magazine and no pellet in there. I've checked. So when you switch it to the 12 o'clock position, you've got a nice 2-stage trigger. I've set this one up myself, and yeah, I've set it up so it's got a really short first stage and comes up against a really positive ledge, and then it's just the smallest of squeezes. It's a positive squeeze. It's not super light, but it's a really, really, really nice trigger. On the top, just so that you know, I've got my Optizan EVX 3x12x44i. I've had this scope for 5 years, and I love it. I'd really like to get hold of another one. You know, so I try and keep waiting for a second-hand one to come into the shop, but they never do. I think people who've got them tend to hold on to them. But anyway, what else? So this particular rifle, I think that's the walkthrough. Let's see how well it shoots, and then I can tell you the sad and sorry tale behind me actually purchasing this rifle. Okay, I'll be back with you in a minute. Right, okay. So this is set up at 50 yards, which I know is not my normal distance. So I apologise if this grouping is terrible. It shouldn't be. Because if I've been shooting like I've been shooting this rifle over the past couple of months, 50 yards is not a problem. Right, let me just get into position, get comfy, and then let's get shooting. Wow. Right. So, there we go. I tensed up. Well, we'll talk about it in a minute. I tensed up on a couple of those shots. We'll talk about it in a minute. Okay. So, before we get to the mag, before we get to the target, let's talk about the mag. Get it round the right way, Neil. Okay, so this is the FX Side Shot magazine. It's a pretty nifty little thing. It's got a Perspex cover on it, and it's basically a spring-loaded magazine that you wind round and you drop a pellet in place. The pellet then, with the spring tension, is basically the pellet blocks the mag in place, and because you can take the cover off, you can then just drop pellets in. It is an absolutely outstanding design. It's so simple, so easy. I love the fact that you can take the plastic cover off the front and you're not winding it around or anything like that. You know, you can literally just wind it drop the pellet in, and then bingo, it stays. It's quicker to, because you can remove the plastic front, it's quicker to load. Standard mag in 2.2 takes 18 shots, and in 1.77 it takes 21. I'm not sure what it does for 0.25 and 0.3. If you're interested in shooting those, just when you go online to the shop or wherever you're looking to buy it, you'll be able to find out what the average capacity for those is. To be fair, there's many more videos out there than mine, so I suggest watching one of those. So let's talk about the target. Bearing in mind this is 50 yards, I think I've finally managed to do an air gun some justice. All right, maybe not as much justice as I thought when I think about it. Other than those two shots, which that one was definitely me, that one was probably me too. The body, you know, the main group is all within my little finger, and that is at 50 yards. Bearing in mind, there's no wind today. You know, yeah, normally I'm struggling with wind in this garden, which limits my A, the range, and B, limits how good I can get the groups down to. But I wanted to show exactly what this rifle can do. I think those little outliers, they're more to do with me and getting tense when I'm seeing the group going quite well. I'm wondering if maybe I shouldn't use a shoot and see target, because that definitely, you know, a couple of times I was like, oh, please don't miss. And at that point I'm getting a little bit, and I'm actually probably causing the miss then. But anyway, this rifle itself, I've done a lot of work on. It came into Leicestershire Airguns as a trade-in. It wasn't consistent. It had loads of problems. It turned out that the guy who had previously had it had messed around with the internals right up to the point that basically the valve stem that was in here was damaged. It got damaged, which is probably because it wasn't the right valve stem, as it turned out. I sent the pictures to FX and said, look, can I fix this valve stem? They said, no, that's irreparable now. And for the serial number of the air rifle you've got, that valve stem is not the correct valve stem. You know, it's the wrong one. So, I mean, I don't know what the guy was doing. Also, he'd messed around with the reg. The anti-tamper was out. And when I looked at the reg, I could see it was slightly damaged. So that caused issues as well. So I've had to rebuild the reg. I've put the new AMP2 reg in, which has got a brass piston instead of a Del rim piston. And that has helped. I've got this down. I've got this rifle down to a sort of standard deviation over 10 shots of 2 feet per second. Over 10 shots, yeah. It's you know, occasionally 3, but I mean, I've shot group after group of 10 shots, and it's given me 3 feet per second. I'm regularly seeing 5 feet per second over 18 shots. You know, it is, you know, yeah, 2 to 3 feet per second over 10, and 5 feet per second, 5 to 6 feet over 18. It's absolutely astounding. You know, there are times when it's, you know, I put 5 shots down range, and it's literally, you know, it's, you know, 576, 576, 576, 577, 577, 575, 576. It's absolutely unbelievable. I cannot get over how consistent this air rifle is. This is, you know, this is impact level consistency as far as I'm concerned. And I think for the UK market, or even, you know, well, yeah, I'll talk about it a bit more in a minute, but for the UK market, definitely the Dreamline makes a lot more sense than the Impact does in terms of an air rifle, in terms of a tool. With the ability to change stocks, you know, these Aeron stocks, you know, you can get an FT stock, a HFT, you can get all sort of very skeletonized, incredibly target focused stocks for the Dreamline. You know, you've got the ability to turn this into, you know, 177, to turn this into an absolute target master. Yeah, I would, I'd love to get hold of one in 177 and put it into a target chassis and see exactly how accurate it could be. It would be fantastic, but that's money I don't have. So unless anybody wants to you know, give me a 177 Dreamline in an Aeron FT chassis, or you know, I would be more than happy to receive it. But anyway, overall, what can I say? Well, especially in this Dream Tac, I think they call it, guys, and it's Dream Tac, guys. I love this air rifle. I think it's absolutely amazing. I watched a lot of videos on basically to get this working. I've got to give a big shout out to sub 12 foot-pound air gunners, actually. Huge nod to him. If it hadn't have been for him, I wouldn't have been able to repair this air rifle. He does a fantastic guide on stripping the Dreamline down. Having said that, if you're not mechanically sympathetic, you know, and you don't, you know, yeah, I wouldn't mess around with these air rifles unless you're truly happy with what you're doing, and more to the point, you're truly prepared to mess it up and basically turn this into an expensive paperweight. There are plenty of good tuners out there. If you're not happy with what you're doing, please go and see one of them and get them to fix it. Otherwise, that aside, yeah, thank you sub 12 foot-pound air gunners. Really appreciate your content. You've really helped me out. You've allowed me to bring this air rifle back to life to the point where I've bought it. Also, AEAC, Airgun Exploration and Advancement Channel, I think. Very excitable American fella. He does a fantastic guide on tuning these air rifles, and it was his guide on tuning that allowed me to basically get this to where it is at the moment, basically balancing the hammer spring against the valve effectively, so you don't get any valve bounce or hammer bounce or anything like that. You're getting the hammer and the valve working perfectly together, and once you've got that dialed in, this thing is, yeah, as you can see from the downrange results, and you can, you know, I can see on the chronograph, it is absolutely astounding how good this can be. Anyway, this is now my new favourite air gun. I love it. It's my go-to. I would highly recommend anybody that's thinking about getting one of these to buy one. Recommend as well as a second-hand purchase. Plenty of people out there that can help sort out any problems if you have any with them. I think Phil at Ratworks will be able to do repairs. If not, Phil, mention it in the comments below, please. I was under the impression you do fix these. Yeah, they are, well, a superb bit of kit. Right up to the point where I think I'm going to put this on my firearms certificate and then drop in the heavier hammer spring, and then I'm going to rebuild the regulator with the firearms with the higher power Belville washers in there, so that I can get it up to, I think with this barrel I should be able to see about 30 foot-pounds, and I really want to see what 30 foot-pounds will do over 50 to 60 yards in terms of the drop, because at the moment at the legal limit 50 yards, you know, I am getting a hell of a drop at 50 yards. You know, the difference between my 30 yard zero and the scope, and then the amount of clicks that I have to use for my 50 yard shot that I was doing was a few. You know, there is quite a bit of drop in there, even at 11.8. So I would be interested to see what difference it makes at 30 foot-pounds. If I do get around to doing it, it will be in a year or two's time. It will probably take at least 8 months, 9 months to get the variation in, and then another God knows how long to actually rebuild the rifle. So it would be a while, but if I do get around to doing it, hopefully I'm still making videos, and I'll try and get an update done on that. Anyway, I think I've waffled on enough. I think I've covered everything. If I haven't, sorry. Basically, bottom line, I love it. Buy one. I hope that's good enough. Thanks for watching. I look forward to making the next video. Be at least a month, possibly more like 6 weeks. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it this one. I don't think I'm going to hit a month for the next one. You never know. I might be able to come up with something that's quick. But anyway, until the next video, please stay safe, and I look forward to making the next bit of content for you. All the best. Cheers.